Hi, I am SB Rawz. I am a coach and a messy whole human. And this is Jennifer O'Grady joining me for another All Up in It conversation. 35-ish minutes of reporting from the complicated and often exhilarating midst of learning. Ah, Jennifer, I'm so excited about this conversation.
We're here.
We're
We're doing it.
here. Thank you so much. And yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to give any intro. I'm just going to ask you, because I'm just so excited to get into it with you. I'm going to ask you how you see yourself as a human these days.
Oh, how I see myself. My arms want to stretch and
Yeah.
just like expand into the space as you answer that, as you ask that question. Um, like noticing the space that I'm in. I'm finishing up a uh, a training slash certification in somatics, and
Wow.
so like being in my body and and being with my body and doing the things my body wants to do is becoming really a new space for me. So stretch, yes.
Love it.
Um, and actually being in my body right now means that I am, for me in this moment, is calling me to explore the container that I have in this world. Um, the container that is cisgendered, heterosexual, white-skinned woman, um, multiracial, um, being, um, who happens to be liberal, who is liberal, who happen to be liberal. That is who I am. I'm liberal,
Mhm.
in the political landscape, and also neurotypical with a family that is neurodivergent. And all those labels and what they mean and what it means for me and the privilege that I have and what it means for me in the how I am aware of that privilege and how I engage that privilege. And I how I coach others, how I show up as a mom, how I am as a friend. Um, it's informing all of it right now. Um, and it's unfurling. It's unfurling. Like I don't know exactly what will be coming from this. I just know that the awareness is there, and I'm called into this really brave space of not just talking it, but really embodying it and taking the action that I'm called to take, based on the privilege that I have and the spaces that I'm called to, spaces that I'm called to hold. And just noticing all the ways that the conditioning, patriarchy, capitalism, like all those things are just have been how I've been swimming in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and all the ways I'm inviting people to call me out on it without even realizing that's what I'm doing. I had um this fantastic conversation. It's hard, but fantastic conversations, like hard and is really the space I'm in. It's beautiful and hard, beautiful and painful, beautiful and exciting and excruciating. Um, where I was having a conversation with my middle child, um, and saying, I realized the other day that I am the neurotypical person in a neurodivergent household. And and my middle child said, well, like, wouldn't it be kind of cool if you also were neurodivergent? And I was like, well, okay, first of all, maybe. And her next or the rest of the conversation really made me realize like how ableist I was being. Um, and she said, well, I was like, well, how did I think it done? Totally ableist and totally like productivity, toxic productivity and all that. And she said, but then we would all like think this. We would all be able to be in each other's spaces without something being right or wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And she noted that her dresser is often just like, she's very visual. That's she's very visual, and I am not. And so her dresser often has just stuff, and I see a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And she sees it, and she sees her stuff.
Yeah.
So she can see her stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, my dresser, for instance, like, I know it annoys you. I know it annoys the crud out of you. And I need it that way.
Yeah.
It is actually calming for me to have it that way. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
mm-hmm. So what did me tell me, like, no, the right way for this is to have everything like in containers and neat and all that. So like that's just like this, like an example of like the pull I had. Like, is there, do you have the right way? And in the pre-conversation here, you said, neurotypical is almost like the narrow right way to be.
Right.
And so yeah, I'm exploring, and I'm very much in it, exploring and in it. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
gosh, you're touching on so much really like juicy, important stuff, right? Like that how our default notion has been that typical or majority is the same as correct
Mm-hmm.
or best,
Mm-hmm.
right? Rather than a version, right? A variety of human, right?
Right.
And also that so many of your intersections of identity are of the variety that could easily, if you were a different kind of human and or in a different set of circumstances, could easily be the kind of things that you don't even cue into because they are normative, right? And that's something that more and more of us have been noticing, right, in recent years, is that the more we're considered like normal, whatever the hell that means, right, the easier it is to ignore identity.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
wonder what blend or of life or qualities or care, like what's getting you into the awareness? What makes you not only be aware that you could enter a brave, a hard, transformative, a beautiful space with all of this, and actually take the steps? Like, what's
So the very first, when the windows start opening on this for me, like the windows start cracking open for this for me, was I was coaching a woman of color, a woman from a global majority, and she was naming all kinds of microaggressions, all kinds of microaggressions. Um, and we held a space together, and I was curious, and I said, what you're sharing with me sounds to me like microaggressions, that this is you not being seen, and people around you not having a structure for you to be seen, and the space for you to be seen hasn't been built, and it sounds like microaggressions. And she started to cry. And she started to cry because she said, you're the first person with white skin that has said that to me, that has like uttered that. And I said, and I am mad, and I am sorry, and that is BS. And that is happening to you. That is not okay. And I got so mad. I got so mad that happening. And I went out of I've been going back and forth with this a little bit with my coach about, like, I went out of coach because, like, I didn't stay neutral. I wasn't like, oh, like, yeah, that's totally valid to feel that way. I got mad. and
yeah
and it was painful. And then I recognized that I got to leave the space, and she didn't. I got to leave the space. I got to just like, okay, session's done,
yep
not my experience. It's not my lived experience. She didn't. And that started it. Like that, just like knowing started it. And so really learning how to take myself out of it and center others, right? Like not center around my experience or myself, but like learn what other people are having to be with, and not always coach them out of it, like, but to be in that space with them, to be an ally, to be an ally, to walk next to them in solidarity or walk in front of them in order to fight before it gets to them. So
I hear that. So it makes me think of a different word, which is a collaborator. Right. And I feel like I hear flavors of that, right? Not that ally is an incorrect word, but like that's just the word that, and the vibe that comes up for me.
Yeah.
And I think about it too, about in the ways that you've been exploring and embracing, again, various aspects of your intersections of identity. And one of the things that comes up for me, one of the places of connection is when I was, I'm as you know, a queer person, and I have been in relationships with cis gender men and also male presenting people. And when I've been in those relationships, there's been this like, but I'm not straight. Like, please don't mistake me for straight. Like, that's really uncomfortable for me. And I wonder if that's resonant for you as a white-skinned person with a much more interesting cultural background.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. And with that, the tension of please don't mistake me for this, but I've had all the privilege of this.
Yes.
And I continue to have all the privilege of this.
Absolutely.
I'm actually going to look up my phone just for a moment, because there's somebody that I do want to reference as a term that's coming up for me, but of course, like, reference where it comes from. So I'm going to look something up because it's somebody I follow on Instagram.
Awesome.
And the account is Check Your Privilege, and it's Misha Till. And she, I believe her pronoun is she. I believe she. Maybe they. I apologize for not knowing that. I really should know. She uses the word co-conspirator.
Yes, I love that. Yeah.
Co-conspirator. Which as you're saying that, like, ally, it's like, yeah, I'm here supporting you. Yeah, go do your thing. Good job.
Right.
But the more active, collaborator, co-conspirator. Yes. And so the call is to actually, and my body is like getting energized by this. Yay! The call is to actually find, and be with the others who also want to be a co-conspirator, like, who see the privilege, see all the ways that we are conditioned, and be a co-conspirator to break that, be a co-conspirator to realize where whiteness is and how it is informing us without us questioning it. So and building real connections. I think that's other part of it too. That actually is a huge part of it. That was part of what drives me in the coaching that I do and in the groups that I have, is the real connection. And that means, to me, being vulnerable and making space, and sometimes shutting up. A lot of times shutting up. And so even like how we connect with each other, how that is even informed by whiteness and, you know, um, a structure that doesn't always take into account like the humanity of people, but rather like a competitive, like my kid did this, well, my kid did this, and you had that, oh, I had this. And oftentimes white people, we label it as relatability.
Mm.
No, we're trying to secure our spot in the tribe. We're trying to secure our spot.
So I want to go in like 12 directions in this conversation, but let me let me back myself up and just make sure that I'm asking you this overtly, because I think you're describing what you're all up in, interwoven in what we've been talking about already. But I want to ask you that question more directly, to make
Mm-hmm,
sure that I'm not making assumptions. Like,
mm-hmm.
where do you see yourself? What do you see yourself all up in right now? Like, what do you see as some are part of, or the thick of your
Yeah,
current learning curve?
like having my eyes open to all these places,
Hmm.
having my eyes open to all these places, and um, I am now all up in the space of going from the safe space where I could finding the safe space
Hmm.
for myself
Hmm.
to feel the things. And now it's the brave space. Now that I can exhale, I
Hmm.
can breathe, I can inhale, I can do that in a natural way without worrying about the next thing, which some people don't have. And that's also part of the journey, like creating this safe space in order to be brave.
Hmm.
Um, so that brave space now, look, okay,
Yeah.
I'm here. I'm getting grounded in on this earth, on this place that is so much with history. I'm on the land of the council of the three fires, and just like all of that is, I'm grounded here. And now let's really get my eyes open to what I'm swimming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have said this before this moment. Well, part of it I could have, but like as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about something I've been noticing in my life lately, which is the sort of bonus privilege that I didn't expect of being in the middle third of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 45, and I've been noticing, or at least making the assumption that part of my ease in the world, even when I present very overtly as queer in a very small southern town, where there's lots of like Confederate flags and stuff, where I've never gotten any kind of hatred or pushback or anything about being queer, like I've felt very safe here, and recognizing that a part of that is the color of my skin, right? And I think a part of that is being middle aged, right? Like I think a part of that is that there's sort of a bonus privilege that I did not expect in being in this era of my life, and I think being seen as fairly innocuous. I don't know if that's true. I don't think anybody could tell me if I asked, but I
Mm.
wonder if that feels any kind of way to you.
I appreciate that. I hear you. What I take from that is like she's middle aged. She's not gonna start any trouble. She's just gonna like just over there being her queer self with her
Right.
blended family. She's white. It's okay. She's not gonna stir up any like she's not gonna like bring anything in here. It's okay. Just leave her be. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It
Yeah.
feels like a layer on top that sort of coalesces my various points of privilege and
Hmm.
gives me space uh, to use the courage that I've cultivated over the years. Right. So it's sort of a pile of awesomeness that I didn't expect in
Yeah.
this era of my life,
Yeah.
that I can be more educated. I do have more access to more eye-opening things. I do feel like I have more space to exercise my privilege, because people just generally think I'm sort of like
Yeah.
cute little old lady. Go do your thing.
Yeah. Well, yes. And oh my God, that's like shit. Like, yeah. And that was the thing, like So my dad is Puerto Rican, my mom was Scandinavian, and we were raised white. Like we raised white. We weren't allowed to speak Spanish in the house.
Mm.
My parents got divorced when I was young. Um, so there's all kinds of things. Like I was raised white.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I didn't really understand what that, like I would have lots of moments with my family, where I many times remember going shopping with my dad, and the person in front of us, um, paid with a credit card, kept going. My dad would pay with a credit card, they asked for his license.
Mm.
Like, um, yeah, and my dad is a fair-skinned Puerto Rican. Um, and also like there's other features on him that people can assume that he is of Latin descent. Um, and I also had this moment. I've had a few moments with my dad, and where I'm like, okay, there is something about where I realized my whiteness, where he would start having conversations around politics or other kind of like really other meaty things, and he would start calling folks racist. And my dad, like, really? And then it was me wanting to make it okay. It was me like wanting to think that no, it's safer to not think that. And then I remember the last time that happened, and I was like, well, crap, it is. And I'm telling somebody whose lived experience was that of being a minority in Chicago
Mm-hmm.
in the 60s,
Mm-hmm.
50s and 60s.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not right. Like, who the hell am I to say, no, that's not?
Mm-hmm.
Because I wanted to feel safe, which is like white privilege. Like, I get to say, no, it's not, because that's uncomfortable.
Right.
And so I'm really like, as I'm unfurling, like getting into this, freaking uncomfortable it is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
What makes it important enough to you to be this uncomfortable?
I might cry. Would she if I do? I really value connection. I really value connection. I really value connection. And there is a trauma part of me that really also values belonging. And right now, the connection, the belonging, I'm having to let go of that trauma need for belonging in order to connect, because I really value connection. And I can't keep doing that. I can't, in order to be in that value, in order to center connection in my life, I have to now. Like, once you see it, you can't unsee it. You could, but that's, I mean, I'm choosing, whatever, for whatever reason, I'm choosing not to. Really value connection. And the
Yeah.
only way to keep doing that is to do this work now.
Yeah. Yeah. There's an Ubuntu sort of vibe. Right? Like that I am because you are.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah.
And I think like so many, I like to think of like the bumper sticker version of really important things, right? And I think it's easy to turn that into a bumper sticker if we don't pay enough attention to like
Mm-hmm.
the extraordinary depth and breadth of that reality, that like we
Mm-hmm.
are all completely interconnected and we cannot experience belonging without everybody
Yeah.
being in the category of belonging.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw this image recently, and the caption was, we don't actually see trees, but we're calling trees aren't trees. I'm like, what? And it was this wide shot, this drawing depiction of the root system of the trees. So what we see are the individual trees, right? Like no matter close together in a forest or in a woodland, or like in Chicago where they're like, there's a tree in front of every house. Most houses, not every house, depending on how privileged or what neighbor you live in. There's a tree in front of every house. But underneath the roots, they're just all there. Right. And they have their friends, the fungi, that are helping to communicate between them all. Like they're connected.
Yeah.
They're connected.
And have to be, right?
And
it's not optional.
Yeah.
It's not like, this is nice. It's like, oh no, we will die without each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's I saw that. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes. We're seeing the individual tree. We're not seeing the community and the connection underneath.
Yeah. Oh, I love that example too. That's just that's like gets right to it. What are some of the tools? If you've alluded to a few of them, but what are some of the tools, whether internal or external, that are helping you navigate this learning curve or contributing to it?
So I've been using the word radical a lot from different tools. Radical compassion, radical honesty. Radical compassion, like this is freaking hard, excruciating, and it is. And radical honesty is the truth is there and needs to be named. The truth is there needs to be named, and a lot of times I'm going to get it wrong, and that's where the radical compassion comes into. Allowing myself to get it wrong. Allowing myself to be called out, like putting myself in space that I got called out. And actually, it's interesting how we as humans create it for others, and then we bring it to ourselves. We're like, oh, okay, now hold the phone. So it's what I do. So I have groups. I have a group called Women, Women Engaged in Life, and it is a monthly group where we hold each other in brave spaces to be called out and to also be held with compassion and honesty, and like creating a space where it gets uncomfortable for ourselves, but we are witnessed as we are uncomfortable and we're not judged. And so do that for ourselves, right? To like, this is hard. It's hard. And I'm witnessing myself in this hard space. And I'm witnessing you in your hard space. And I'm centering you and not making it about my pain. I see my pain and I see your pain and our pain together. We're going to be honest. We're going to move through this.
I love that. I love that you're utilizing interconnection to live more fully into interconnection. Like that's so right on, right? It's so beautiful and it's so right on.
Yeah.
And it is brave.
Yeah.
And it is vulnerable.
Yeah. And it's not a systematic, it's not a white-skinned, the way white-skinned males are, like, you don't, like, it's like I got to get to this place, right? Like the interconnect. Yeah. So it's deconditioning. It's deconditioning to get there. Deconditioning. We were I was talking to another colleague who is really diving into grief, and I was asking her, like, what is the thing that grief needs? And she said, to be witnessed.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And to be witnessed is to be vulnerable, and we don't know how to be witnessed.
We crave it though.
Yeah. But we don't know how to be witnessed. And if we don't know how to be witnessed, how can we serve witness for others, for somebody else? Like truly be in a space where we are witnessing someone else. Our whole ourself is there to see them and their pain, and we can't allow the people to do that for us. So,
thank you for saying that. I apparently really needed to hear that. Thank you.
Yeah.
My friend, it is time for me to start wrapping us up. I know. I want this I want the, oh,
Goes by.
it goes by. And it's been so rich, and I feel so much energy stirring in me, and I'm so grateful for you, and to you. Would you take a moment as we roll on out of this space together to highlight a nonprofit or organization that feels meaningful to you?
Yeah, yeah. So I have been involved with a nonprofit called Anne's Haven. Um, we're actually it's a space for women, those identify as female and non-binary folk to be witnessed. It is a place, it was founded by Anne's daughter, Janet, and Janet saw her mom doing for others, um, resourcing others, not resourcing herself. And so this is a place to be resourced, to do the work, to do the hard, brave work of allowing ourselves to be resourced so that we can, um, and to resource others. Like it's a collaboration in that way. Um, so it's on the northwest side of Chicago. Um, and they're both programs that ANS has, but also the vision of ANS is to have the population that we serve, women, people as identify women and non-binary, to come in and bring the thing that is important to them,
Mm,
the thing that they want to hold up, a skill, a wisdom, or whatever, and share that with others
mm,
and kind of ripple it out. So it is, if you've got something you want to share, if you've got something that you want to be witnessed, if you've got something that you want to be seen, or you have something else that you want to shine a light on, you bring
mhm.
it to AMS and have other people come and share it with you. So
Wow, that's extraordinary.
it's
Yeah,
really cool. It's
thank
really cool.
you. Thanks
Yeah.
for sharing.
Yeah. I say that it's the if my coaching business had a brick and mortar, that's what it
Mhm.
would be,
Yeah.
is AMS. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh, my friend, thank you for taking the time. Thank you for sharing from what you're in the thick of. I'm just grateful for you and
I'm
for this.
grateful for this brave space.
Thank you. And I
Yeah.
wish you, and I wish myself, and I wish anybody watching ease and joy in the midst of whatever we are learning.
Mhm.